When you have a dream, it calls you. And when it calls you, you have to follow it. And if you don't follow it, it is going to eat away at you. And then one day, it won't eat away at you. One day, it'll be too late. One day, that dream will be gone. And on your deathbed, that dream is going to be your biggest regret. Hey, what's up? It's Gene Clark, and it's been a minute since I brought y'all a book, and today's book is The Alchemist, and these themes are going to be running through it. If you've read this book before, go ahead and give me a big thumbs up so that I know who knows about this book. And either way, stick around until the end of this video because I've got an important question for everybody out there. But let's go ahead and jump right into The Alchemist. Our story begins with the protagonist, Santiago, who is often referred to in the book as the boy. And as so many boys do, he is sitting there daydreaming about a girl that he is longing to get back to. Now, before he can get back to this girl, he keeps having these reoccurring dreams that he believes are prophetic. So he seeks out a gypsy woman and is asking her for her fortune-telling advice. And she advises him that his destiny is in the treasure that he will find in an Egyptian pyramid. And she also goes on to tell him that dreams are the language of God. And so he leaves her and he meets all of a sudden the king of Salem. And the king advises him to go to the Egyptian pyramids and then introduces him to the concept of a personal legend. This is what you always wanted to accomplish when you were young. But as you grow up, the experiences you have and your view of the world and everything you've been told that you would be and you would never be, well, most people give up on their dream because they've been told they can't achieve it and they have come to believe they'll never be able to achieve it. So shortly after arriving in Africa, Santiago is robbed of all his money by a local thief that he thought was going to be his friend. So he decided instead to go to work for a local crystal merchant to save up enough money to get to the pyramids. So while Santiago's working for the crystal merchant, he keeps seeing things that he believes the merchant could do to improve his business, improve his life, and just have a better experience overall. And the merchant generally is very hesitant in the beginning. He's always happy to hear his suggestions, but initially pushes back and then eventually gives in to whatever Santiago suggested. It always seems to work out, and he's very grateful for those suggestions. A year has passed now, and Santiago is thinking about all the money he's saved up and how he could return to his homeland of Spain, and he could come back a hero, and he could come back with all this money and live with, the wealthiest of the wealthy. But instead, his mind goes back to King Salem that he met, and it goes back to that thought of never stop dreaming. There was a quote that the king had told him. The king said, "There is a language throughout the world that everyone understands. It is a language of enthusiasm and of things accomplished with love and purpose, and as a part of a search for something believed in and desired for." So when Santiago remembered this, he said, "You know what? I can always get another job. I can always return to Spain and shepherd these sheep. But there's only one time I can go to the pyramids of Egypt." And so that's what he did. He set out for Egypt. On his journey to the desert, Santiago learned a few valuable lessons. All things are the manifestation of one thing. Everyone has their own way of learning things. No two ways are the same, but each person's allows them to journey onward towards their own destiny and live in the present moment. In their journey through the desert, they came across an oasis. And in this oasis, Santiago met a new girl, a girl that he had never felt this way about before. He knew that this was love. It wasn't the same feelings he'd had before. It was deeper. It was more meaningful. It was more on fire. And he'd never been more certain of anything than he was about how he felt for this girl. And he felt she felt the same way he did, and she did. So over the course of a few days, a couple of weeks, Santiago bore his soul to her. And she said that while she loved him, she understood that he had this destiny, this dream that he was chasing, and she would never be able to forgive herself if she prevented him from following his dream and finding this treasure in the Egyptian pyramids. And so she said, go, follow your dream. And when you've completed it, when you've seen it through, come back and we can be together. Unfortunately, that night, Santiago had a vision, a dream that the oasis was going to be attacked. And so he went to warn the elders, and they didn't believe him, but he was very adamant about it. So they told him, if they're attacked tomorrow and nobody dies, that they will reward him greatly. But if they're not attacked tomorrow, then he will be killed the next day. And a strange man came up to him, asked him how he understood the meaning behind this dream and this vision, and why he thought he could change the outcome of potentially seeing the future. So Santiago explained to him that he knew the language of the world and that he didn't know the outcome, just what the message was saying. So this mysterious man told Santiago, if he survives the next day, come and seek him out. Well, the next day there was an attack, but nobody died, and Santiago was rewarded greatly. And instead of sticking around and becoming the chief counsel of the oasis, he instead decides that he is going to go seek out this strange man, the alchemist. And when he finds the alchemist reminds him that everything he has, he did not get from the pyramids, and his true treasure lies in the pyramids, and it's time to get back to that journey. So they decide to head out that day together. And after 7 days on the road, Santiago was informed by the alchemist that their journey was almost complete. And that disappointed Santiago because he felt he hadn't learned anything yet. And then the alchemist dropped some knowledge on him. That's when the alchemist told him that you can only learn through action. And he only had one more thing to learn, and that would be to learn this. Listening to your heart is the most important thing, because your heart is where the true treasure is. Now, before we get to the conclusion of this story, I do want to share with you 3 things that I've learned from this book. Number 1, it isn't about the treasure, it is about the journey. There's a great line in here that goes, every day in search of my treasure is a day spent with God. Every day has been luminous when I am truly searching for my treasure. And when I have completed my search, I have accomplished things I have never dreamed possible. Number 2, all people that are happy have God within them. Everyone has a treasure within them, within their hearts, and people seldom talk about it because people don't like going in search of it anymore. People stop following their dreams because it is hard, and the heart hurts when that happens, and it's hard to talk about because it hurts. And people don't like their hearts to hurt, so hearts eventually stop yearning for this treasure, and a dream eventually dies. You know, the saying goes, the darkest hour of the night is just before the dawn. Before our treasure can be realized, there's going to be a test. It's going to be a hard test. The test makes sure that we are mastering the skills that we need, and that this is something we truly desire and that we truly yearn for, and that we're not going to give up on it. It all begins with a little bit of beginner's luck that we've all experienced, but it ends with the victors being tested and passing those tests. And where do you think that beginner's luck comes from? It comes from God. And where do you think the desire and the willpower comes to complete that journey? It comes from having God within you. And last up, it's just a quote from the alchemist himself. He says, when you possess great treasures within you and you try to tell others about them, seldom will they believe you. And that leads to the rest of the story. Spoilers coming if you haven't read the book and you want to. Okay, so Santiago gets captured. Santiago and the alchemist, they get captured, and in order to save the life of the alchemist, Santiago has to turn himself into the wind. And while he doesn't succeed in turning himself into the wind, he is able to speak to the desert and the wind and the sun, and they conjure up this terrible storm that Santiago disappears into, fooling his captors. And he does this by understanding the soul of the earth and knowing that God is the hand of the world, and with him all things are possible. The captors release them, and Santiago and the alchemist travel to a local monastery where the alchemist tells Santiago that he is only 3 hours from the pyramids at this point, and there he will finally find his treasure. The boy heads to the pyramids and he finds a sign he believes is telling him to start digging. And he starts digging and digging and digging, but before he finds his treasure, he's robbed again. And it's for the 3rd time in this book. Talk about being extremely unlucky. Talk about being tested. Santiago tries to explain what he was doing, why he was digging, what he was looking for. And the robbers, of course, don't believe him. And one of them tells him that they once had a dream of a treasure that was in the exact same place Santiago was in when he had his original dream all the years prior. And with that, he was off. He heads back to that city. He goes back to the tree he was sitting in sitting under the first time he had that dream. And he starts digging. And under that tree, in the ground, he found a chest full of Spanish gold. He had found his treasure. Now he has it. He returns to the oasis. He has the girl, and they live happily ever after. So how would you feel? You go on this epic quest looking for this treasure. You're told to go to the pyramids in Egypt, and all it does, you meet all these crazy characters along the way. You have this journey of a lifetime, but when you get to the pyramids, you start getting robbed and beaten, only to learn that your treasure was right back where you started. Would you be angry and upset because you had to go on this long journey and you couldn't just dig where you were literally sitting? Or would you take comfort and look back and think, what a journey, what a story, what a life you have led, and you have this treasure, literal treasure, on top of all of it? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Let me know, for those of you that read the book, The Alchemist, with a title like that, you're thinking more science. I know I was. And this book had a lot more religious undertones than I was anticipating, and I really enjoyed the book. What were your initial thoughts before you ever read the book? Let me know that in the comment section as well. If you made it this far, I do have one more kind of comment and question for everybody out there. I've been in talks with a few authors of books I've read, and I'm curious to know, would y'all like to see me bring them on and interview them about their books and learn a little bit more about them and their life, or just stick to the book, stick to the message in the book? I mean, that's my interpretation, but I think going to the source, going to the person that wrote the book would be more insightful. You can definitely get the meaning behind their words as they presented them, not necessarily how they're being interpreted by myself or y'all out there. So let me know if that's something you're interested in, and let me know if there's anybody I've done a book on that you would like me to try to bring on, or leave me a book and that author, and I'll try to reach out to them as well. I hope all y'all are staying healthy and safe, and continue to do so. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click up here. This is The Greatest Salesman in the World. I think you'd personally enjoy that video if you enjoyed this one. And if not, though, go ahead and click right here. This is what YouTube thinks you'll like on my channel as well.